Okay, man.
All right, I'm just gonna get right into it.
All righty.
Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We are joined here with our special guest, Hal Havins of Night of the Living. Fuck.
I wanted to do that. And I'm probably old enough.
I'm wearing the freaking shirt and I can't even get it right. I'm not going to do it again. He's from Night of the Demons, Simeball Bowl-O-Rama.
Hold to your mistake. Hold to your mistake.
I'm owning it, man. Hal, that's a good intro. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
That's all right. Nobody else knows who I am either, so don't worry about it.
No, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Anyone who loves horror, anyone who follows us knows Night of the Demons. They know Stooge. Everybody knows you, I would say.
Very cool. Very cool.
So, Al, you've been staying super active in the acting world. As far as as your acting credits go, it looks like you've had a role in something almost every year since 1984.
Yeah.
Could you just tell us a little bit about how you got started into acting and any moments that have stuck out to you throughout this whole process?
It's something I always wanted to do. I mean, I tell this story and a lot of people don't believe me, but I remember when I was a little kid before I went to school, I would listen to soap operas my mom was watching. Then I'd go in the bathroom and I'd act out Saint. But I wasn't tall enough to look in the mirror. So I had to just act him out to the sink. And I'll never forget the day. I can still remember it when I could see the top of my head in the mirror. And I knew I was growing tall enough that I could actually work on something that I would see. But I'd do the soap operas, and like today, there were a lot of daytime talk shows and they always had stand-up comedians. And I would memorize their stuff and walk in the bathroom and do it. And my mom always wondered why I spent so much time in the bathroom.
She was thinking you were doing other
stuff.
But
I'm an actor, Ma.
It all worked out.
Don't look. But that's where it started.
A few weeks ago.
And I always wanted to do it. And I just, I had a choice, go to LA or go to New York. And my plan was to go to New York because my only goal was really to get famous enough to do regional theater. That was it. I figured I'd just cruise doing regional theater for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I walked into the wrong office and fell in love and stayed in LA.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's the way it happened. I walked in this office and I was just like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And I spent the next 3 years scheming how to get this lady. And I did. And we were together for 38 years.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh, so you literally fell in love. All right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not kidding. I mean, it was because like I said, the plan was to go to New York. I was doing summer stock at the time. And a friend of mine was doing a showcase in LA, and she's like, "Can you come see the showcase?" I'm like, "Sure." And she's like, "Well, I got to stop and meet my manager real quick." So we walked in the office and I saw her manager, and that was it. I was just, from then on, I was like, okay, how do I get back in this office?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it worked. So
that's awesome, man. Love at first sight, huh?
It was. I always say that I loved her before I met her because she was that vision that you have in your head. Most people have a vision of who they're going to end up with or want to end up with. It was her. Yeah. When I walked in, it was her. And I don't know, I obsess on it a lot now and talk about it. I probably shouldn't. I lost her 2 years ago. Yeah. So that's why she tends to come up in conversation. So we'll move on to happier stuff though. But she was happy. So
well, thank you for sharing that though. And we're sorry for your
myself right into a corner. I'm sorry.
No, it's a great story though. Honestly, that's an amazing story.
I just hope my wife some of those soap opera lines.
What's that?
You can go, Josh.
Oh, I said.
I was saying. I hope.
You said I could go. Come on, man. I saw my wife, and it was love at first sight. I said I'm going to marry that girl, and it took me 3 years. 3 years, and I didn't even talk to her. And then she tried to attack me on the side of the road, and that was it.
Oh wow.
So, we've been together ever since.
3 years, 2 restraining orders.
Yeah, I only talked to her a little bit that time. Only a little bit, but.
I was about to say it takes time to catch the smart ones. You got to work on it. But if she just grabbed you on the side of the road and threw you in the bushes, I guess life worked out.
Oh yeah, yeah. She's still throwing me in the fucking bushes.
Sweet. Of course,
Nah, I was
keep
just
finding your way home.
I was saying, I hope you use some of those soap opera lines on her to kind of get the relationship going. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
were you kidding me? I couldn't talk around her. I couldn't do anything around her. She had a pit bull that hated me.
Nah.
And I swear to God, I thought it was gonna kill me. I didn't even realize it was in the room. And it pinned me against the wall, literally one of those where it puts its paws on my shoulders, because I was getting a little too close, I guess. I don't know. And this dog hated me for years. But we finally came to terms once he realized I wasn't leaving.
But you're a good dude.
But, yeah, I fumbled around with her for a long time. I fumble around with most people. You guys, it's easy because I get you. I understand you.
Yeah.
But with most people, I just kind of stare at them like I'm, brain damaged. That's why I need the script. That's why I need words. It was John Belushi that said the only reason I'm any good on stage is because it's the only place in the world I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's true. It's because I think a lot of actors have the same issue. Personally, we just kind of flounder. It's not until we get somebody else's ideas that it ignites our ideas. I know that sounds weak, but I think it's the truth.
Yeah.
Anyway, I brought it down again. Let's talk about something else that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So a few weeks ago, I was able to rewatch a Sorority Babes and the Simeball Bowl-O-Rama, and it still holds up to this day. How was it like working on that film? Because I heard a lot of crazy stories.
Well, here's the question. Did you like it?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, okay, cool. Look at that pause.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
It was actually fun. It wasn't I don't have a lot of the stories because, again, now we go back to my wife again. She had just had surgery. We shot down in San Diego, and she had just had surgery. And one of the first nights, I called her to make sure she was okay. And she said, well, I had to crawl to the bathroom. And that was it. We were shooting at night, right? So in the daytime, after everybody went to bed, I'd get in my car, drive back to LA, take care of her all day, drive back for the night shoot in San Diego. And I pretty much did that we only shot for like 2 weeks. And I did that for pretty much the whole time. So a lot of the stories at night, I wasn't involved with, or in the daytime or night. That's the thing about being in horror films. Your nighttime is everybody else's daytime.
Yeah.
Because you just flip your clock. But I did that. I actually did that on another show too. The same thing happened to me down in San Diego. I was shooting on something for a week down there, and same process. She had to have a surgery, and I just would, this was a bigger show, so they had security and stuff, and I would have to wait till everybody went in, and then I would sneak out of the hotel, drive home. That's the way it worked.
Yeah. So it seems like you dodged a lot of things that were going on because it sounded like everyone was like drunk. Yeah, getting drunk on the set.
I was there for. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Nah. So you worked with Linnea Quigley on that film also. So she had suggested you to play that role as Jimmie after having worked with you on Night of the Demons. You guys worked on a few films together. What was it like working with her?
Yeah, we did 3, I think, together. I like Linnea. I like her a lot. Always have. See, another story goes back to my wife. We were flying up north to do a film, and I was at that time afraid of flying. I was scared to death. And Linnea was going to be on the plane with me. She had actually the seat next to me. And my wife went up to her before I got on the plane. This is back when you could walk up to the gate. And she asked Linnea to watch out for me because I was afraid of flying. And Linnea was like, no woman has ever asked me to look out for her man in my entire life. Your wife is amazing. And they ended up becoming pretty good friends. They were very comfortable with each other. But she was very nice. She did look after me the whole flight. But literally, I would white knuckle it to the point I thought I was going to hurl half the time. Hated airplanes. But I got used to them. You get forced to. But Linnea was great. I mean, Linnea, she's done so much stuff. you know, that it's always just another day. So there's no pressure. She's always relaxed. She's always easygoing. She knows what she wants to do when she's going to do it. And so it's easy to work with her. And she's easy to be around because she's nice. And she loves dogs. So if you love dogs, you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's all I got for Linnea. She's a pretty wonderful person. Now she's up in the mountains taking care of dogs.
Yep.
She's got what is it called? A sanctuary, I guess.
Yeah. I've seen she has videos on social media. There's like just dogs everywhere.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, you know, they'd all be homeless in the street getting hit by cars on the highway if it wasn't for her.
Yeah. I mean, what is the odds though? Like it's just interesting coincidence. Linnea and Amelia being so like driven to like animals, you know, but they're in the acting world and they're doing films together.
Well, you know, I think if it gets down to it, you'd find most actors like animals. I mean, that's the one thing that we all do is you have to, by nature of the craft, you have to reach out, right? And you have to reach out emotionally. It's the one thing that, you know, because I teach, right? And the one thing that's the hardest to get across to people is you have to learn to be intimate and free with it. And not physically intimate, but emotionally intimate. You have to be able to stand, you know, especially if you're doing TV, you got to be able to stand 6 inches from somebody else and bare your soul. And you teach yourself to do that. And by nature, you start to care about everything outside of yourself. That's just part of the way it happens. So yeah, I think a lot of actors love animals, you know?
Yeah.
Amelia, I still call her Mimi. Once she grew up, she became Amelia. But she's got, you know, a very special connection with animals. And if you ever watch her do it, it's trippy.
Have you seen it in person?
Yes. Yeah, I have. It's pretty impressive.
Wow. We had her on our podcast months ago, and she, you know, she talked a lot about, you know, the work that she does with the animals, and just hearing that is amazing. I would love to see that in person.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, she can do it with people too, I think. She's a trip. She's kind of a trip. She also has a charity down in Africa, where I don't know, they take care of elephants or something. I don't know quite what they do.
Yeah,
and lions and everything.
Yeah, she gives a lot of herself. She really does.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna buy my son. She does classes. So for my son's birthday in a couple months, I'm gonna buy some classes for me and him, and like
to work with the animals.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's very cool.
He loves animals. I live in like Noah's Ark over here. I got a turtle, a hedgehog, 3 cats. Like, we got a lot of animals. So he loves animals. So I thought that was the best thing. We just haven't purchased them yet. It's not till later in July. So
that's awesome. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I think he'll really. I think he's gonna dig it. So.
Oh yeah, why not? I mean, it's amazing. But we were the same way with animals. You know, now I've only got 2 dogs, but there was a time I had a whole ranch. You know, I don't think there's anything with fur or feathers that hasn't come through my house at some point.
That's awesome.
There's no such thing as a stray in our life. It doesn't matter if it's an animal or human. It's always got a spot.
All are welcome.
Yeah. We feed all the birds and the squirrels and even the rats in the neighborhood. So yeah,
I draw the line there. I am not a rat guy. Rats.
That wasn't planned. It just happened. So we were like, oh, okay. Like rats living with the squirrels. What are you gonna do? So
I guess there's not much. And you know that poor rat, as Robin Williams used to say, he's one fuzzy tail away from being cute.
That's it. So speaking of Amelia Kincaid, we had her on the podcast. She talked about you quite a bit, very fondly actually.
That's nice.
Which is kind of cool. And so the big question was Night of the Demons, and I just wanted to get your opinion on the movie as a whole.
Well, I think it's, you know, indicative of its time. You know, people still enjoy it, thank God. But it was an 80s film, right? And the 80s was a very specific era. We had about, we come out of Vietnam and we were going into the generation of AIDS. But in between that time, there's about 12 years where it was all about partying and having fun. And so if you notice, like everything had a wink to it. Everything had a sense of humor. I don't care. You watch any drama from that era, there was always some kind of wink to it, some kind of humor in it. And horror started to develop that way too. You know, the comedy horror started to become really big. And that's, you know, what Night of the Demons is. It's meant to be fun and enjoyed. And it's more of a roller coaster than an axe murderer's house. You know what I mean? It's meant to be fun at the same time. It's meant to be a little bit spooky. So the thing that is so amazing is that so many people attach themselves to it, you know? So many people get, it means something to them. And it took me a long time to figure it out. And I think it's because the cast is so big. There's somebody for everybody to relate to, right? You can look at every type and yeah, they're all kind of stereotypical archetypes, but that just means they're easy to define. So an audience member can look at, you know, Phil Tanzini and attach to that person. He's a guy that's calm and knows what's going on. And also, Phil Tanzini, by the way, is the funniest human being you'll ever meet in your life. Oh. He doesn't really get to do it in the film, but the guy's just absolutely hysterical. But yeah, every character, there's a character for somebody. And I think that's one of the reasons people attach to it. This happened in Riverside. And it I don't know, it really affected me. And that's one of the reasons I think about it a lot. There was a guy and his girlfriend. And they walked by several times, which they'll often do when you're at a convention. People will walk by a few times before they stop and say hello. So these two walked by several times and I noticed them and they stopped, and it wasn't a guy and his girlfriend. It was a guy and his little sister. She was 14 and he was, I don't know, 17 or so, 18. And he said, you know, when I was 11 years old, my mom gave me Night of the Demons. And when she was 11, I gave her Night of the Demons. And he didn't mean I gave her the tape. He meant we sat and watched it together. And it was becoming a family tradition to watch Night of the Frickin' Demons. And on one hand, yeah, that's kind of like, wow, that's funny, especially since you probably shouldn't show it to an 11-year-old. But on the other hand, you know, the opportunity to be involved in something that affects people that way is, you know, it's just dumb luck. Yeah. And I'm pretty grateful for it because there's, I don't know, you know, you want your work to affect people in some way. And the last thing in the world you would expect is a horror comedy from the 80s to affect people, but it does. And, you know, I'm glad I had the opportunity to be involved. I can't take credit for it. I didn't make it, but I was there, so I'll take half the credit.
You played a big part in that.
Yeah, I think even more than just like, you know, being there, like the way you guys portrayed each character was meaningful to people. So like, it's not like the movie would have been as impactful had it not been the specific cast either. So I think you guys are just as responsible. Like, so for example, your character, Stooge, is a fan favorite aside from Angela, right? Like, yeah. And it's funny though, because like
Angela looks better in the dress.
Well, in other movies,
it's not
though,
like I look bad in the dress. She just looks better.
We didn't say that. We didn't say that.
No. I do think that like in other movies though, your type of character comes off sometimes as like the annoying or arrogant one, you know? And like,
yeah,
I think of like in Texas Chainsaw or in some of the Friday the 13th movies, you know, like that kind of character is actually disliked and people are like rooting for that person to die off pretty quick.
Yeah, the bad guy is the bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But your character is loved. Everyone loves your character. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't say this. Kevin Tenney actually says this. He explains it this way. There's a vulnerability to Stooge. He's not just a bad guy, he's vulnerable. And hopefully, that's the case. That's what you try to do. I mean, at least I do. And sometimes you do it on accident just because it's part of who you are. But you don't want an evil character to just be evil because it's boring. It's boring for the audience. And if you look at, he's not a villain really, but he's kind of the bad guy in it. If you look at any great villain, there's always something desirable about them. Maybe they're funny, or they're beautiful, or they're witty, or they're skillful at something. They're not just evil, And I think the vulnerability of Stooge, as Kevin says, is kind of what sells it, what makes it safe. And then you feel bad for Stooge when he gets hurt. Instead of, like you said, rooting for him, like, fine, shut him up, get him out of here.
Yeah.
You kind of feel bad for him. You're like, oh, I kind of liked him. So, and the way he went out, oddly enough, it took me a while to realize this. I think I'm the only person in the industry that has had their tongue bit out twice on film. I did an episode of ER where my wife bit out my tongue too.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you get them going hard enough, there's no restraint. I didn't say that. You can.
That's my grandmother you're talking about, Hal.
That's my
Nana. Nana. Fond memories of Nana pushing the wagon.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a line in the film that everyone loves. Can you say it and kind of tell us, because there's like a story behind it, like where you got it from?
Yeah.
Do you know
Yeah. It's eat a bowl of fuck. Right?
Yeah, that one right there.
Back then, I used to do something in every performance. I would put in a tribute to an actor that I liked. And it wouldn't be a big thing, and it wouldn't be an obvious thing, because I couldn't break character to do it. It had to just be a part of what I was doing. So usually it'd be like a physical motion or something, or maybe just a twist on the way I said something. But I stopped doing it because I realized I forgot what they all were, so I never knew what I was doing. But with Eat a Bowl, when we were doing the film, I was reading the biography of John Belushi. And there's a story in there when he was working for Second City. They were making something like, I don't know, $20 a week. I mean, they were making nothing. And during a rehearsal, he said, eat a bowl of fuck, as an ad lib. And of course, the artistic director was like, the one thing you cannot say on main stage is eat a bowl of fuck. You just can't say it. So what's the first thing he does that night? He walks out center stage, yells at the audience, eat a bowl of fuck. And they suspended him for like 2 weeks, which means, he wasn't making his measly $20. And he sacrificed for his art. He wasn't going to be told what not to say. They were smart enough not to fire him, though. They just suspended him. And the day I read that, I came in the next day and I asked Kevin, I'm like, can I say it? I want to say it somewhere. And he's like, yeah, go ahead. I'm like, where? Where can I do it? He's like, wherever you want. And it just happened that day that it just fit in the, wasn't it the opening of the party, I think? And it just kind of fit at that spot. So that's where I used it. And it was awesome. It was a little tribute to Belushi.
Yeah. Great.
Nobody remembers Belushi anymore, but he was, for me, outside of the obvious reasons, for me, he was one of my favorite performers. I mean, I thought the man was absolutely brilliant. And if you ever want to see how good he is, watch him in, I think it's his last film. God, now I'm drawing a blank on it. With Blair. All right, well, Continental Divide is what it's called, where he plays a newspaper reporter, and it's actually a romantic comedy. Go figure, Belushi in a romantic comedy, and it's brilliant. He's so good in it. It's crazy. Anyway, this is what I talk about actors and acting all the time. So,
oh no, it's good, man, because you pay tribute to everybody that kind of guided you to this. You know what I mean? Look now, all the credits, like we talked about, all the films you've been in. You've been on shows like Justified, everything. Like, you know what I mean? And those things are still around, because it just, you know, great actors that inspired you. So now you're doing the same thing for other people. You know, you might not think it, you know, but you know, these films definitely do make an impact. And like you were talking about earlier, you know, like how the family kind of like showed the films, like how the brother showed it to his sister. We talked about it with Amelia, you know, like I would watch these movies with my grandmother, you know, and she showed me these films, and now I watch them with my kids, and like Josh watches them with his kids, you know, and it just keeps going, and it, you know, they love it.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That, like you said, it makes you feel good that you're a part of something that people, you know, people relate to and care about, you know.
Yeah.
Even if it's a, you know, in this case, it's a fun way.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that kind of makes the film, is that it's got that sense of humor. I think if it didn't have it, it wouldn't be half of what it was. You know, because let's face it, we weren't the most brilliant actors on the planet at that time. We're all pretty young. As far as acting went, I think the only person with any experience on the set really was Phil Tanzini. Had done a lot of work, and Linnea, of course, but everybody else was pretty new. And in fact, oddly enough, my wife booked Phil Tanzini on his very first SAG job when he was a little kid, the commercial. And I believe it was the commercial he did with Todd Bridges. And it was Todd Bridges' first job as well.
Wow.
Okay.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
Oh, I always go back to her. Like everything references back, you know? That's what happens. You start living on memory after a while. But memories, you know, they keep you going. They're what's great, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what? The important thing is you remember, you know? Like,
Yeah, you can remember, because in a couple of years, I won't remember anymore.
So I legit have some brain damage, and I'm petrified that one day I'm just going to wake up and not remember, you know, and my wife and I had to have a serious discussion about that one day. And that's a scary thing. And, you know, my wife has definitely shaped my life way for the better over the past like 15 years, dramatically. So if I were to forget, I would not be the person I am. So
it's amazing how much a good partner can take the crazy out of you. You know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute, all of a sudden I'm thinking normal. I did not hit that man with a hammer.
Well, they accentuate the best sides of you, right?
Exactly.
And they keep you in check too.
But yeah, it's tough when you're living with a chronic issue like that. You know, it's tough. You're always kind of on edge about it and worried about it. But you know, the whole goal is to wake up tomorrow. Just wake up tomorrow and keep going.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then someday you're in the middle of an intersection and the cop is asking you where your pants are. At least if you get to go out funny.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking that might be the kind of thing I do on purpose when I'm 80.
Yeah. Just to get a rise out of
Sonny,
people.
I forgot. Put your raincoat down in the back seat of your car and drive me home.
Oh man. So back in 2019, the cast of the film were able to come together for the anniversary of the film. What was it like seeing everyone after so many years?
I don't remember when that was. But I do remember the first time we got together. Because I always said no to all of that stuff, conventions, all that stuff. I never did. I just felt uncomfortable with it. And then we had a screening, an anniversary screening, that had something to do with Kevin Tinney's charity. Kevin Tinney works with an autism charity.
Okay.
And his attitude was, you're going to be there. And I'm like, oh, I kind of don't do that stuff. And he's like, yeah, well, you're kind of going to be there. I was like, well, okay. And again, Susan, the same thing. You're going. There's no way you're saying no to a charity. Come on.
Yep.
So we went, and I can't remember exactly. There were two of them around the same period of time in two different theaters. And it was like, you know, it was like nothing had passed. It was like yesterday, you know? I was immediately comfortable. That's the one thing, and I think we all feel the same way. we're all very comfortable with each other. I think, again, it was our first experience making a film for that period of time. We're all on for a couple months, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever it was. And we were together, you know, for long hours. They were very long days. So we really got to be a tight-knit community. Now, I was kind of used to this because I did so much theater, you know? You become kind of a family, and then poof, you walk away, you're a gypsy, you go to the next one, right? But because of that, you've got these connections that you don't really think about. And when you see everybody again, they're there. And luckily, we've done a couple of these. And every time I feel the same way. I feel like I'm seeing my siblings that I never get to see. You know what I mean? Most of them, we don't stay in contact, you know, at least for me, a lot. But there's a few that I just talked to Jill Terashita the other day, and you know, I stay in contact with Mimi all the time. But I always have the same. It's just really fond feelings toward them, you know. And they're a good group of people. Very lucky. None of them were jerks. So I don't. Maybe if nobody's a jerk in your crowd, you're the jerk. I don't know. Because somebody's got to be the a-hole.
Wait
right?
a minute.
Yeah.
We hear nothing but good things about you, so I think you're safe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's nice. But yeah, they were really good crowd of people, and you can tell by where they are now in life. You know, I mean, they're raising good families. A lot of them, you know, that have left the business have great careers because they're smart and determined. And you know, then you've got people like Linnea who's still working all the time, but then taking half her life to devote to animals that don't have homes.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and I feel like, you know, I'm the odd man out. I'm the idiot does nothing for nobody. I don't even talk to people. It's like, if you don't call me on the phone, I will never talk to you. So
you're on this podcast, man. That's something.
What's that?
I said, you're on this podcast, man. That's something. And we appreciate it. I'll tell you that.
That's good. Thank you. I appreciate it. But you know, that's where you're the sucker, because I may not call you, but if you get on the phone with me, you're not leaving for 2 hours.
That's amazing.
That's kind of the way I live, you know. But no, I'm enjoying this. Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun.
When we connected with Amelia, she was telling us about some of like the fan experiences, and you already kind of alluded to some, but you know, she was just talking about some of the extreme fans, like the people who have tattoos of her on their body. And you know, she actually she met some fans and they invited her to dinner, and she actually went, which, you know, I give her a lot of credit for that.
I don't know.
To like their family's house
given
is
to
like
me by people I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have any like memorable fan experiences, or anybody have tattoos of
There's
Stooge
a
on
couple.
their body?
Well, I finally saw a Stooge tattoo. I've always heard about Stooge tattoos, but I'd never seen one. And then somebody actually sent me a photograph of one the other day. This person, it looked like it was on her shins. It looked like a woman. Mimi's on one side and Stooge is on the other.
Awesome.
And I was like, man, I hope nobody ever looks down and to the right when you're getting romantic. But yeah, that was pretty cool, and it was a great tattoo. It was amazing. But there was a fan thing that I don't know if I've ever talked about it in public before. I think it was the very first show I'd ever done. So it was a while back. I've only done like 6 or 7 shows, conventions, you know. And I think this was the first one. This group of 5 came up to the table, and one of them had a painting they did. So I signed the painting. I signed a bunch of pictures for them, and we talked for a while. They were really nice. And they had drove in from Texas, and we were in Indiana. So I was like, well, that's a pretty long drive, man. He goes, thank you. So I gave him a little extra time because I wanted to be nice to him. And they're like, okay, we're going home now. And I said, well, great. Have a great weekend. Hopefully we'll see you around the show. They go, no, we're going home. And I was like, what? You're going home? It's early yet. So I go, no, we just came to see you. He's like, wait a minute. You just drove in, got out of your car, came in here, talked to me, and now you're driving back to Texas? And they're like, yep. And that one bowled me over. I just couldn't believe it. That was, I don't know if it was the biggest compliment or the craziest compliment or both. I was in shock. But they were dead serious about it. It was like, yeah, we did what we came to do.
That's wild.
You ever see a
So-
film and The Gods Must Be Crazy? You guys are film buffs.
Yeah.
Have you seen
Yeah.
that film?
Oh yeah.
All right. So the whole story is a guy throws a Coca-Cola bottle out of his airplane window in the very beginning, and it lands in the center of this tribe in Africa. And none of them ever had a possession. So they start fighting over this Coke bottle. And the Coke bottle, they decide, is evil. And one guy is tasked with taking it to the end of the world and dropping it off, right? So he goes through all this, the whole story is about how he gets to the end of the world. And he gets to this endless cavern, like the Grand Canyon. And he drops it off and turns around and starts walking home. There's no moment where he even considers the magnitude of what he does. He just walks off, tosses it off the edge and walks away. And when they told me that story, the Texas story, I went right back to that film.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you did what you needed to do and now you're going home. Okay, I get it.
They weren't even like
Boy,
curious.
was that an obscure film reference?
They weren't even curious to like look around or
No, not a thing. They just walked in, found me,
We're finished.
we signed.
Where's
and-
Hal?
and, yeah, that was, it's shocking that, I don't know, it's just like, I remember the first time I was asked for an autograph, I refused to give it. They're like, can I have your autograph? And I was like, no. Like, really? Why? I'm like, why would you want it? Where'd you even get this idea? This is stupid. Go find someone that's worth it. And I ended up doing it. They talked me into it just because they felt so bad. They got so disappointed. I was like, oh, you got to do it. And you realize, Kevin actually told me this. He was talking about, he was doing a Q&A about a film of his, and he made a joke about the film being bad. And he said, I felt the audience turn. They started to get really mad at me. And then I realized it's because they're so invested in this film. They don't care what I care about it. They don't know what my standards are. They're already invested. They already like the film. And if you tell them it's crap, you're telling them they're crap. And that one kind of stuck with me. That's a lesson that stayed with me.
yeah.
Especially when you look at horror fans as dedicated as they can be. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're getting something, and they're doing exactly what you want them to do. They're getting something more from the film than you ever put into it. And that's exactly what you want. Noel Coward said, a play is a ghost of a thing without an audience to perceive it. The job is done when it's in the audience's mind and they finish it. I don't care how good it is. If nobody sees it, it's not a play. It's like a painting that's turned around the face of the wall. It doesn't exist until somebody sees it. Amen. Sermon's over.
I think you're right though, because we build up these films in our head and we really want the people that are in them to also love them the way we love them.
Yeah.
When you hear an actor talk about a film that you love and say like, oh, I hated that role, it does kind of like bring it down a notch. And then you start to question your own like feeling about the film. It's like, what was I thinking?
Exactly. And
yeah.
Where do I get the right to tell you you're wrong? That's your whole job as the audience, is to perceive it, to understand it, to take it in and do something with it in your mind. How can I tell you you're wrong? Doesn't matter what your response is. You may hate it. You're still right. Because that's your job, to perceive it and process it. And if I run around, also too, this whole, I hated that role. It's like a musician that says, oh, I wrote that song. That song is the only reason people pay attention to you.
Yep.
What are you doing complaining?
Yeah.
The same thing with actors. I hated that role. That's the only reason I'm talking to you. Shut up. It's like, you have to be grateful.
True.
You have to be grateful for all the gifts that are given to you in life. You really do.
Absolutely.
And you have to be aware enough to know what they are and to appreciate them.
Yeah.
Like this moment now. I'm loving this. This is great. But coming up to it all day, nothing but anxiety. Just like, oh crap, is the phone gonna work? Oh, should I use the light or not use the light? Oh, close the drapes. Oh shit, it's getting close. It's just like, I knew you guys do it every day.
Oh yeah, but
And,
it's definitely from our point. It's like, damn, we're getting ready to interview Stooge. You know what I mean? We're getting ready to interview
Yeah.
like this film that we grew up watching. You know, so it's the same thing, man. It's
well, I
And
hope
I'm
that's
definitely
what
like,
you're saying.
and I'm like, is he gonna show up? Is he gonna like, because we've had, mix-ups before. I'm like, is something gonna go wrong? Am I gonna send, the invite out wrong? Or is like the time zones not calculated correctly? Like there's always these things that we stress about.
It's
Yeah.
easy to do. It's really easy to do, especially now with the whole pandemic response,
Yeah.
It's like I
Mhm.
literally did this morning I woke up for a reason today, right? There was something going on. And luckily I put everything on my calendar. I put it on the phone. If it's not on the phone, I don't do it.
Yeah.
So if I forget to
Yep.
put it on the phone, forget it. It's never gonna happen. But
Mhm.
it's so funny because like my students, I always had this antique flip phone and everybody laughed at me and I was like, I just want my phone to be a phone, damn it. And
Yep.
finally it died. So I had to get a phone, and of course they give you an iPhone.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I was ready to push Susan out of bed, put her on the pillow next to me. After I had this thing for like a week, that was it. I was just committed. I was all in on the
Yeah.
iPhone game.
Al, I think we're really related, man. I
Yeah?
just moved on to a smartphone like 2 years ago. So
It changes your life. like-
yeah, it makes you 10 times more busy. I hate it.
It does kind of make you more busy, but not me, because I'm just not that busy. But it keeps you so much more organized.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know when to do anything. My phone does. It'll tell
Yeah.
me, but I don't remember when to do anything. I don't even know when to get up. I just get up when my eyes open. Usually when there's a dog going, hey, dude, you got two choices. I leave a lump on your chest or you let me out the door. That's usually how I get up in the morning.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it's been a good ride and I appreciate it very much. And it's not over. I think I'm going to be focusing a lot more on teaching now, but it's not over at all.
That's good.
And yeah, we'll see. There's still old men out there in almost every project.
Oh, for sure.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
And also too, in all honesty, I could shave and I'd look almost like I did back then, because I got this round Charlie Brown head and it doesn't change. It looks just like Charlie Brown. And yeah.
So I think it's crazy how they didn't have to like decorate to the house in the film. Can you share a story about filming in that house?
Oh, they did have to decorate.
I thought they didn't. Like
it was
it was already
home when
messed
they
up.
walked in.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was a beautiful craftsman home when they walked in.
Oh,
I don't know if it was an outbuilding or a second house. I don't remember, but they built a kind of a hallway in between the house and another place. I don't know exactly what it was. I don't remember. In fact,
oh, okay.
it's in the film toward the end of the film when we're on the second story. Whatever that walkway connects to was the second building, and under it is where they built the crematorium.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it was a beautiful house when they started, but the owner knew it was going to get torn down because he'd sold the property. And so he was like, do whatever you want to it. And they did. They went in there and they distressed the whole thing. And it was beautiful. It was creepy and it was beautiful. And I don't think they left an inch undone. There was no place you could go that wasn't creepy. And the worst part, no power upstairs. And that's where all our dressing rooms were. So we're shooting at night with no power, and you have to go upstairs to do everything, and it's completely black. The only light coming in is whatever comes through the windows. And yeah, it was very, very creepy. There was a time, it was after we shot the scene, tongue getting bit out. So I'm covered in all this blood. I had to go take a shower upstairs to get the blood off. And of course, you take this cold shower because there's no heat. And I get cleaned up and I start to leave, and I'm shivering already. And I start to leave the bathroom. And in the hallway, I hear a footstep. I hear the woods creaking. Somebody's out there. And just as I was reaching for the doorknob, I was like, well, that's weird. I know I'm the only person up here. I'm not opening the door. I'm not going to do it. And I like, oh, don't be a pain. You open the door. And I reached for the doorknob again, and the same thing. The person moved out there. And this happened like 3 or 4 times until I looked down and I realized I was standing on the board. It was creaking out there. I was on one end and the other end was creaking. Who runs boards through a doorway? You always run up to the doorway and stop it.
Yeah.
But they ran it through, and I just happened to step on it just right. But it was a good 5 minutes before I had the nerve to open the door.
That's amazing.
There was a lot of creepy stuff that happened up there. A couple of people had some really creepy incidents. Unfortunately, I don't remember what they were, but some of them were pretty spooky because it was a spooky place. But I think that's what brings it. If you make a place really spooky, you're gonna feel spooky, you know. And they did it beautifully. It was about as creepy could be. I think I don't know if there was any special place I hated. Maybe the crematorium the most. But yeah, that was a good one because I was new. I'd just been out here for a year or two. I don't know. I was pretty new. And I had come out of the stunt world. I'd been taking stunt classes when I came out here. And there was a full burn for Stooge. And I was like, I'm doing the full burn. I want to do it. And I talked to Kevin about it. And he literally said, are you out of your effing mind? We got to finish the movie. You think we're going to light you on fire? And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I get it. And that's when I met Bobby Short, who was my stunt guy for, I don't know, 6 or 7 projects. But when I was skinny, he was built just like me. We were the same frame, same size, except I blew up and he didn't. So they would pat him out and do stuff like chuck him off of buildings and light him on fire and stuff. I would sit and smoke cigarettes and drink coffee and go, yeah, that hurt. That looked painful.
Oh man. Yeah, so we talked about how like everything in the 80s, how it was a good time and a fun time. You look at it now, like the special effects were not the same as back in the 80s. I heard there was some issues there was like smoke that they made in the house. What was that like? And also, what was the process of becoming a demon?
Oh, the smoke cookies.
Yeah.
That's what they call them, smoke cookies. They look like road apples, like horse road apples, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were like an incense kind of thing. And they were these big chunks. And everybody had it back then. They had every grip truck had a little cast iron frying pan. And then they would light this thing on fire, blow it out like incense, set it in the frying pan. And then very carefully, usually with a piece of foam cord, like a large piece of cardboard, basically, they would waft it very carefully, softly waft it to try to fill the room. So it didn't look like it was smoke filled, like a bar or something. They tried to get an even coat of smoke along the room. And, you know, if you could do this, if you were good at this, you could get on almost any film you wanted because everybody used smoke back then. And it was really hard to fill a room perfectly, but it was beautiful. That's why so many films back then had that beautiful blue haze, because it was these smoke cookies. The problem is they cause cancer. So they outlawed them. But then you're like, wait a minute, every other job I did had these things. And you would gack up blue stuff for a couple of weeks. You're constantly blowing your nose and blue would come out. Kevin Tinney likes to tell the story about Phil Tanzini. They were doing a close-up on him at the fireplace. And somebody said, do we need more smoke? And Phil goes, I don't know, let me check. And he sticks his finger in his nose, goes like this, pulls it out, and it's blue. And he goes, no, we're good. What the fuck?
Oh, man.
But yeah, so, literally every time you walked off a job, and it didn't matter because everybody used it. Anytime on film, everybody used it. Everybody smoked. That's what they refer to as smoking the room. And so it didn't matter what job you did. For the next week and a half, you were blowing blue gunk out of yourself. But you know what? As long as the check's clear, blue gunk's not so bad.
That's awesome. I heard a story also on this film, other than the smoke, that you got your earring caught on something and ripped your ear. Was there any truth to that?
Yeah. You can actually see it. There's one shot where I don't have the earring. When she bit out, when Angela bites out my tongue, she had those lace gloves on. And the long earring I had was a pair of handcuffs. And so it hooked in this lace glove. And when I spin off and fall down, plink, it got pulled out. Luckily, though, Joe Augustin, the writer, warned me. He said, whatever earrings they give you, because I pierced my ear for the film. So he's like, whatever earrings they give you, go get really thin, pure silver wire and use those, put them on that. And so that's what I did. So it only tore like halfway through and then it opened up. So I still got the scar. And what happened was we went to get cleaned up after that shot. Makeup was cleaning me off and I feel this tug on my ear and she goes, oh my God, that's you. And what happened was a part of the ear that was inside the earlobe got pulled out. So there's this chunk of meat. She starts freaking out. And I'm like, ah, crap. That's when I realized what happened. So luckily we had the budget for an on-set paramedic. So I brought him over and I said, you got to put the earring back in. And he's like, dude, you do not want me to put the earring back in this hole. It's nothing but a scab now. I'm like, yep, yes, you do. So he cut off the little fleshy part that was hanging out. And he had some lidocaine paste that he put on the outside. And he put them in those little clippy things. And he said, you ready? And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. And he just jabbed it back through my ear. And I don't remember if I cussed or screamed or yelled or what, but I just remember going, keep going, it's not through yet. Because I wasn't going to have the film where I have an earring and an earring goes away. That loss in continuity would drive me up a wall for the rest of my life.
Right.
But there is one shot where, because it was kind of continuous, because I fell and I got back up. And when I get back up, you can see the earring's gone. But then when we cut to the next frame, it's back because I had the guy shove it back through. That's my earring story. That's how much I love what I do.
That's awesome.
Now,
dedication.
what was it like? What was it like for the makeup process of becoming a demon?
I was fine with it. You know, like a lot of people didn't like it. Like Billy Gallo, Billy Gallo has no demon makeup in the film because he refused to have the face cast. They put it on and he lasted about 30 seconds. He's like, get it off. A lot of people don't like it, but I was always very comfortable with it. The only problem was getting it taken off. I hate it because to take it off, they use a little bristle brush and basically acetone, and they take it off, it'll stab by stab. And after about 4 days of that, your face is just, it's so painful. I can't describe it. It's like getting tattoos all over your face every day for 4 days in a row. And I was just like, just let me wear it. Just let me wear it home. I'll be very careful. I'll sleep carefully. Just leave it on. And they're like, it won't last. It won't last 2 hours once you leave here. Trust me. I'm like, I've been running through smoke and fire and all this other stuff. It's lasted now. I was begging them to let me keep it, but couldn't do it. So they kept putting it back on. But it was, I didn't mind having it on. I didn't mind using it. I was very comfortable in it. Interesting thing about the burn makeup was actually developed for Richard Pryor when they were doing his biopic. And Steve Johnson researched how skin burns because he wanted it to be realistic. So it burns in 3 different layers. So he did 3 layers of makeup and he distressed them all in the way that each level of skin would burn. And so if you really look at it, it's very, very accurate. If you look at pictures of burn people, it's really accurate. And the only problem, that was the rough one. It took 11 and a half hours to put on that makeup. And one bottle of Jack Daniels.
Just one.
It took so long by the time we were done because the bottles just like By the time we were done, I was sober again. It was like,
That's amazing.
but
The
yeah, it was really wonderful makeup. We got really lucky. Steve Johnson is an amazingly talented guy, and his crew they were equally as talented, and they were all really dedicated to doing a good job on the film. So we got a lot of extra time that the film didn't pay for, that they just did because they care.
you could tell it really shows in the film, which is probably why it's still so highly thought of today.
That's part of it. I think the physical effects, people appreciate them. They like the real effect, and it's not easy to do. It takes a lot of creativity and ingenuity, and sometimes just dumb stuff. Like, I actually shouldn't say it because that's like, I guess I could say it. I mean, people know what's going on now. To get that face where everybody's face went, it stretched back. They literally just tied strings to the corners of our mouths. They glued string. It didn't work for me, I think, because my face was too fat. But for the skinny girls at work, they glued strings and then they tied them in a knot behind your head, and you would just twist your neck and it would pull the string and your mouth would just go like the Joker. So that's what it was. But it's just plain creativity. Who thinks, well, I'm going to try and tie a string to your mouth. Let's see what happens.
That's crazy.
But yeah, there's a lot of, practical effects are very cool. And anytime somebody does them now, everybody talks about it because it's like nobody gets to see it. Now it's all CGI, and it's like it's like watching a cartoon. You don't that's the thing. Back then, if you saw something on film, you knew it happened. Somehow, it was fake, but you knew it happened. And now you watch something on film, it doesn't have that realistic impact. I don't know. I think so. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I
Oh
agree.
yeah.
So one big last question.
All right.
Years ago, the years are kind of blended together for me now. I can't remember how long ago, but I remember hearing that you were going to direct, and I was pretty excited about it. But then I never heard of anything that you directed, and I was wondering if maybe I just didn't see it, or you fell through. And are there any plans in the future for you to direct anything?
Well, we're talking about something now, just because it's gotten so easy to do production, and I've got a unique location, so I'm kind of like thinking we'll try to build something around that. That's a possibility, but right now it's pretty vague. No, what happened was I had a project a while back that I was shopping, and it was getting a lot of good response, and it turned out that my partner was corrupt. And these investors were figuring it out pretty quick, even though I didn't know. So we'd have these creative meetings and they'd go great. They'd just be wonderful. And then say, okay, you guys go work out the paperwork. And then all of a sudden these people would just disappear. And then I found out later, because what happened was he tried to snake me all the time. Then he tried to snake one of them. And when they found out, they immediately, back to my wife, called Susan and said, hey, this dude is snaking you guys. So unfortunately, it didn't happen. And by that time, I was burned and angry. So I just put the script on the shelf. But yeah, it's like, that's part of this business, man. You run into people. But for any aspiring filmmaker, I'm going to tell you right now, this I learned the hard way. No legitimate investor will leave the conversation without some kind of story. If they're a legitimate investor, they'll say, this is why I'm not investing in your project right now. If they're a liar, they'll have some kind of story too. Nobody just disappears unless they think you're a crook. And that's what was happening. People were, he was actually, the guy was just dumb as a bag of rocks too, apparently. But he was doing something that if you looked at it twice, you realized it was a scam. And then they would just disappear. They were just gone. So yeah, that's my directing story. I've done a couple small things since then, but nothing of note, And you never know, I might make it someday, God willing, and the creeks don't rise. So yeah, happy tale there.
Bringing us down again. See how you are?
Well, the fun part is the guy is now selling used cars in Victorville, I think it is. It's Victorville or Barstow. Someplace in the desert. So
Everything turned out okay for him, I guess, huh?
yeah, it did. Well, he gets to also live in his in-laws garage. So that's a bonus.
Karma.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Al, do you think
God, why am I telling you guys this stuff? It's like I'm in a therapy session.
what happened
for you?
And then my dad hit me in front of everybody.
How did it make you feel, Hal?
I was used to it, so it didn't really bother me that much.
Dave's a psychologist. That's what I tell everybody.
Yeah,
that's right.
Dave's like a legit psychologist. So you'd be amazed at some of the stuff that has come out on these podcasts.
Yeah, that's actually, we've had some good
used
stories.
to do interviews for Actors Access out here. I used to do these interviews for actors, and the things people would tell me were just incredible. But I was probing all the time too. I was always digging. Once I saw that there's an opening, I just start pulling it out, pulling on that thread.
Yeah.
You knew you could never use it, but you still get them to tell you the story.
Yeah.
That's curiosity.
Awesome. Yeah.
Hal, do you think you'll end up doing conventions or any things like that ever again?
I did a couple last year. I've got a convention manager now, so possibly, probably.
If you make it to the East Coast, we better get a chance to meet with you. I would.
Well, that's usually where I've been doing them. I did Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and I don't remember. I don't know. Some other place with a hotel room and some other place with a hotel room.
Yeah.
Oh, Kentucky.
So we do monthly movie nights, and a few years ago we showed Night of the Demons as our like Halloween movie night at a local venue.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a great turnout. We had a few people dress up in costumes, but people love the film. And if you're ever in this area, that'd be awesome to be able to kind of have people get to show you that how much in this area they love the film. I know you've seen it in other states, but hopefully we get that opportunity at some point down the road.
That would be fun. Where are you at?
So we're in Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Yeah.
PVD is actually the airport code for Providence.
BVD?
So, it's Providence, Rhode Island, which is the capital.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the airport code that they use. So we just adopted it for our podcast because we're just.
I see.
Yeah. So worked out.
Yep.
I mean, no one knows what it means, but hey.
Yeah, we have to explain it every time we meet with somebody, but that's all good.
Yeah.
No, I was actually going to ask, but I figured it was some kind of personal code. Maybe I should know. No, I don't know. But I'm glad you guys invited me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I got to give Chris McGibbons a shout out because he was actually from Spooky Picture Show. He was the one that got us in contact with you. So
okay.
We really appreciate that.
He actually has the original snout that you had, and I just go to his house and I stare at it, and I'm like, "This is fucking amazing, dude!"
The mind meld with the snout. Yeah, he's got all the stuff. He's got the jewelry and the I don't know what the gauntlet, I guess it's called.
Yep.
Actually, he helped me rebuild that stuff because they kept asking me to put together a costume for fan shots, right? So I was, for a long time I resisted. I was like, nope. And then, of course, like everything, 2 years later, I go, all right, baby. But anyway, Chris helped me put all that together. He had some reproductions, and he helped me find the rings online and stuff. We got the copies of the original rings. So yeah, Chris is a good guy. He likes the Demons. He's a big fan.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's been a good friend.
Yeah, he's a hardcore fan.
Yeah. He sends me pictures of people's demons altars sometimes.
Really?
That's awesome.
That's what he
Awesome.
calls them, where people do little, here's my little demon night of the demons corner.
Yeah.
He calls them demon
Yeah.
altars. And apparently there's a few of them out there, at least in his crowd.
And we're learning that if we want to invite you to anything, we have to give you a 2-year grace period for you to come around to saying yes.
Pretty
So,
much.
All right.
I'm
Come
not
to Rhode
right-
Island 2 years from now.
Or just get you on the
even
phone for
asking
2
my wife
hours.
to get married, it was about 2 years. I decided I was going to ask her, and then I couldn't ask her where I wanted to ask her. So about 2 years later, I asked her. I don't know. I take a while to break into ideas.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah.
they've got conventions out there in Rhode Island. Maybe I'll do one. We don't know, because my manager's on the East Coast, so
Okay.
that's kind of what he specializes in.
Awesome. All right. So we'll
Yeah.
definitely have to keep that in mind. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So Hal, thank you so much for joining us. This was an absolute pleasure. This went, I think, better than any of us could have imagined. And we really appreciate you taking this time tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. You guys were great.
Yeah.
And
So-
say hi to Nana for me.
Will do. Will do. Thanks, Grandpa.
Yeah. Tell her I never forgot.
You know what's? I'm gonna tell her every time I think of you now. I'm gonna think of the gods must be crazy. That's what I'm gonna think of.
There you go. Yeah,
You
that's
are
an obscure
forever linked
reference.
to that movie.
You're the only one of the three of you that saw it, right?
Yeah. I didn't.
Yeah,
I
not
didn't-
many people saw it, but it was really an important film a long time ago. It was one of the first. It was a foreign film, but it was one of the first indies that made a huge impact, and so that's why it got a lot of attention.
I actually saw the opening scene because as soon as you described it, I saw it in like film class or something. I can't remember why we watched it.
Oh,
But
probably
the Coke bottle scene when he discovers it. I saw that, but I haven't seen the rest of the film.
Yeah, honestly, it's such a great film. It really is. But that whole point where he just, okay, I did it. I'm going home now.
That's it.
It's hard to describe. You have to
Yeah.
see it to get the full impact.
Awesome.
But that's the thing. I love film, and I watch anything. And if we got time for one last quick story,
Yeah.
it's the way I learned how to delineate what art is. Art makes you consider. And when I was a kid, there was a movie theater about a block away from my house. And I discovered that I could go in, and this kind of dates me, I could go in for the matinee after school for 35 cents.
Mm.
And I could stay there until 1 o'clock in the morning when they stopped showing films. And there were 2 theaters, and they got so used to me being there, they just let me walk in and go to either theater, right?
Mhm.
And when I walked home, I would walk behind this store that had a loading dock. And if I found myself sitting on that loading dock, not wanting to leave that film in my head, I realized I saw art. If I walked straight home, I knew. There were times I sat on that loading dock until the sun came up. And it's like, that's what film can do to you. That's what film can do for you. It gives you enlightenment and lets you see the sunrise sometimes.
Yeah.
Ooh, there's a poem. I
I
didn't mean to get that deep, but
No,
it's true,
really
and that's what
do.
it means to me, and that's why
Yeah.
I just love this stuff, and I love the people that love it.
Yeah. My
That's
my
the most
favorite
important.
feeling is when you leave a theater and someone asks you, "Did you like that film?" I'll never forget. Like Brandon and I saw the Suspiria remake together, and as we were leaving, and we were like talking, like, "Did you like that film?" And I think we both were kind of like, "I'll have to tell you tomorrow." I love that feeling
Yeah.
Yes,
because it means I need to think about it, and like,
exactly.
what else do you want from a movie than to have to think about it?
That's the whole goal, but that's the whole goal of art. Art makes you consider. If it doesn't make you consider, if it doesn't make you just for a moment stop and think, it's not art. It's
Yeah.
something else.
No.
But if it makes you stop and think about the condition of your life,
Mm.
just for an instant, and only just an instant counts. It's like walking in a museum, and you look up at a picture and you just consider for a second. And you may have to move on to the next one because it's a big museum and you got to get through it. But your mind just keeps going back to these different images. that's because they affected you in one way or another.
Sure.
You know, and film, that's what film is meant to do. It's meant to take you somewhere else and let you process another world, another life, you know, and sometimes, you know, build your own life from it.
Yeah.
There we go again. Another piece.
Think about that moment you had at a convention, and your instant thought is to go back to a piece of art, a film that you saw, you know, at some point in your life, and kind of make that situation make sense based on this thing that you had seen. So
always, it's funny. I never thought of it quite that way, but
yeah.
Constantly in my mind, I'm constantly referencing films.
Yeah.
And, or plays. I don't want to give plays a short shrift, but since I spent, you know, 10 hours a day watching films, that's kind of where my head goes. But yeah, constantly, good, bad, or indifferent, you know, you can find a lesson in a film. In fact, if you ever want to see something weird, see the first Dukes of Hazzard movie. It's not called Dukes of Hazzard. I don't remember what it's called, but it's nothing like the TV show.
Okay.
It's very, very different. And you just watch this and you go, how'd somebody turn this into a family-friendly TV show? But see, again, that's the thing. One reference leads to another in your head, you know, once you start talking about this stuff. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. Have I kept you guys too long, or what's going on?
That was such
you're good, man.
That was such a great ending to an awesome conversation. Just hearing you describe that was the highlight right there. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem, man.
We appreciate your time. And I'll tell Nana you said hi, and it'll be all good.
You bet. Give her a big kiss from me.
All right, Hal, thank you again. Thank you again. And everybody, if you've never seen Night of the Demons, you absolutely have to. It's an absolute classic. Simeball Bowl-O-Rama is another cult classic. Maybe not for everybody, but definitely for our audience, I think it is. And hope everybody has a good night. Thank you.